Welcome back to The Anxious Creative. I'm your host, Dawn Bradley, and I am so glad that you are here. This week, I have one of my favorite people, Meaghan, joining us. Now, if you've ever struggled with anxiety, which I'm assuming you probably have since you're listening to this podcast, if you've ever felt like your brain doesn't work the same way as others, if you felt like you have too many things on your plate, or you're just so creative that it actually works against you, you're going to want to listen into this episode. Meaghan is the owner of Millson Main. She is a brand strategist, a graphic designer, and she has so much to offer. She's actually come and worked with me in my business. She has changed the way I see graphics and how they work and opened my eyes to the whole world of that. But more importantly, we had a conversation that I think sometimes we forgot that we were even recording a podcast. It was so fun, but she inspires me so much. She not only is a brand strategist and a graphic designer, but she is a mom, and she has so many balls up in the air, and she manages to get things done, but maybe not in the way that you're thinking. We're kind of pulling back the curtain today and showing you a glimpse inside behind the scenes of someone's life, when sometimes we think, oh wow, like look at all they're doing or what they're able to accomplish. So I want to invite you into the conversation I had with Meaghan. It was so much fun. So let's get ready, friend, buckle up and get ready for a wild ride on this week's episode of The Anxious Creative. I overthink, I overshare, and I overanalyze. So come explore with me as I chat about business, life, and relationships, all through the lens of an anxious creative. All right, welcome back to The Anxious Creative, you guys. I have a really exciting guest this week. I have brand designer Meaghan from Millson Main.
I'm so like monotone and not like animated at all.
I know, I love it. Actually,
Hello.
someone just last week, I was doing someone's hair and we were talking about you, and she's like, I love her dryness.
It's so funny how many people call me funny on Instagram, because like I'm not. Like, you should meet my sister. I'm like, growing up with my little sister always being the funny one, I always think it's so weird when people call me funny.
So for those people that are like, okay, we just dove right in, who are you and what are you all about?
I am a graphic designer, basically, is the easy way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
But I specifically design brands, so like logos and your whole visual identity. And then I also do a bunch of random other things because I can't.
I love it. And I first found you on Instagram, and that's what we've been talking about. Like, your stories, you are monotone, but they are funny, but you're not trying to be funny.
No, I'm just like deadpan and people think it's hilarious. And I have like no filter, so I think that helps. I'm just like, I know I have put that on the internet. Oh.
I love it. So tell us all a little bit about your journey into graphic design and being an entrepreneur and a creative and a mom as well.
Yeah, that's a fun time.
See, you're funny.
I got into design. Like I was always the artsy kid in like high school and stuff. And actually I was in, I think it was grade 12 or grade 11 art class. And I was really tight with all my teachers. Like, we went to a very small high school. It's so funny when people find out that me and my fiance are together, because we went to high school together, and he was like, he got kicked out. Like, he was like a huge stoner, got kicked out of our high school. And then I was like a brown noser, basically, and like friends with all the teachers. I have them on Facebook, actually. But someone asked me what I was going to do after we graduated, and I was like, oh, like maybe photography, maybe graphic design. And my art teacher was like, Meaghan's gonna move to Toronto and study graphic design. And I was like, haha. And then that's what I did. So and then my dad is a printer, and he works in like print and marketing. So I worked with him my like summers and stuff from I think 14.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like a natural segue, because I also used to go help the graphic designer that works like in-house for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all come full circle, because now I'm the client there, and it's really funny.
So how did you fall in love with graphic design? Because like I'm a hairstylist. I love visual things, but I cannot, I've worked with Meaghan. I cannot make graphics to save my life.
You're not that bad. Give yourself some credit.
Oh God, they're terrible. When I look at the stuff you've created for me compared to the stuff that I created, I'm like,
You're so good
oh,
at like keeping it consistent with what I've created.
consistently bad.
I love it. No, I don't know. Like because my dad was in the industry, like me playing on a computer as a kid was Adobe Illustrator. I had like the CDs, like he would bring me home the licenses or whatever from work. And like that's what I would play on. And like in high school we had a yearbook class.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like
Yearbook class. Like
yeah,
for
I got
credit.
credit for it. And then they changed. So I took it in grade 11. Like I took it a year earlier than I was supposed to. I don't know how I did that. Probably again being a brown noser.
I was
But I
gonna
also
say.
used to, like, yeah. Like I used to shoot everything. Like I always had my camera at school. I have like friends from high school, their moms would be like, I love when you go to the parties because I know what my kid's doing. Because I always I'm like, that's embarrassing, but great. So yeah, like I used to shoot everything for the yearbook anyway, so they let me take the class early and then they changed the credit, like they changed the course code in grade 12 so I could take it again and I got the credit again. So it was like, I don't know. I was like always drawing when I was little and then I just had those kind of opportunities in high school that like solidified it, I guess. And then yeah, I went to university and continued. And here I am.
And here I am. That's pretty cool because not a lot of people have gone to university for graphic design.
Yeah, it's like not at all a standardized industry. It's very all over the place. And like I took a bachelor's program, but I dropped out after third year. So I have 3/4 of a bachelor's, but that's still more than a lot of people.
You're like, I technically didn't graduate.
Yeah, I'm like just full disclosure because I get called out on that sometimes. But like my last year was like it was an honors program. So the last year was all my electives because I stacked all my design courses and I took classes all summer and stuff. So the last year I had like theories on the extinction of dinosaurs. I'm like,
Right. Which how important is that
I'm
to
not
your well,
making my,
like
yeah.
I actually wanted to ask you about making me some graphics with dinosaurs in it.
Uh-huh.
But now I probably
I
shouldn't.
have a really hard time wrapping my head around dinosaurs being real, so I don't know.
Really? Have you ever been to Drumheller?
Yes, I went to the museum.
Okay. We're both in Alberta for those of you guys that are wondering that are listening. Okay. So how important I saw you post a thing the other day about how people's income is generally goes up when they get a good brand design or something like that. And like how
Yeah.
important, so that being said, how important do you think having a good solid brand design and strategy is for entrepreneurs and creative entrepreneurs especially?
So important. But
On
I
a
mean,
scale of 1 to so, how important?
like,
So
yeah, I think it's really important, but I also understand that like it's not cheap. So
mhm.
I mean, like if you're working with me or like other designers that do the similar like package, like all the strategy behind it, it's usually an investment. So like starting up, if you can afford to, I think it's a great investment, but it's also something that you can do after as you start to gain some traction and like have more money floating around that you can invest. But yeah, like the last 2 weeks, I've had so many clients tell me how much money they've made since working with me. And I'm like, I love this. I love that this
Yeah.
is really a trend. Like one of my clients texted me yesterday. They're like 50-50 on inner city clients, which is what they wanted before. Like that was one of their goals when we first were working through their discovery. They're like, I want more inner city, like higher price point clients. And it used to be like 1 in 30, and now they're at like 2 in 5 of their
That's
like
cool.
ask for quotes or whatever. I'm like, that's amazing. I love it. But
It's
yeah, I
so
think
cool.
it just helps look like more reputable.
Yeah, more professional. Even already, I'm like, look, I had a client, a student of mine reach out and be like, wow, like my product suite looks so beautiful. And I didn't even realize you had finished doing it. And I was like, oh my God, it does.
I just keep sneaking in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so good.
I like honestly eventually.
Yeah, I love it. So being a creative person, being a mom, do you struggle with anxiety and trying to balance everything, or how does that play in for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always like had some anxiety and like depression my whole life.
Mhm.
But since I mean, working for myself has been great. So since I started that, I worked at a really toxic place before that, that everything was like my mental health was pretty shit. But then when I started Millson and Main, I was really good for a while. And then I think just having Maddox and not even postpartum, like anxiety or depression specifically, but just trying to like switch your mindset into I don't have all this time just for myself anymore. It's
Mhm.
been like a really hard adjustment that way, not so much just the normal postpartum anxiety and depression that comes. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like especially hard when you factor work into it because I also didn't take a mat leave. So I mean, I think I asked for a lot of my struggles myself, but
And it's hard. Do you find like I find with like when I went self-employed the first time, like I was excited because I'm like I get to say how everything goes and I get full creative freedom. And that was like what drove me to want to be
yeah,
my own boss. But then realizing that I'm like shit at boundaries, I'm shit at communication. I don't know how to schedule myself. And
yeah,
like I would work 24 hours a day because I love it to my own demise.
yes, yeah, totally. It's like, yeah, I love all the work that I do, so I'm just gonna work at it all of the time.
Yeah.
There's no you work. I go to like the drive-through or like I'm out running around and people are like, "Oh, are you off work today?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm self-employed, so I'm like never not working."
Yeah.
I should stop that.
I had someone have this like a huge aha moment where they said, "You're always working, Dawn." I'm like, "No, I'm not," because I have this thing in my head where I think working is like physically doing.
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, you're constantly thinking and strategizing and visioning." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I totally am. But that's not work." And they're like, "No, that's totally work." And a lot of people don't have that ability. And I was like,
Yeah.
not everybody thinks about like, oh, you could do it this way and this way. And she's
Ah,
like, and it's Amy Mitchell who like is a
yeah.
brand productivity person, but she said there's
All
like
this,
head
right?
sorry.
She does all this sauna stuff.
Yes, she does all the Asana stuff. So she talks about like having like heads and hands in a business. And like
Mm.
some people are a head, like where they just think of, and some people are hands that do the things, and some people are both. And I try to be both, but I'm more of a heads than a hands. And the more I can like and I'm a control freak, the more I can learn to let go, the better things can be. And I'm curious, do you feel like you're a heads or hands or both? Or what would you
I
prefer to
think
be?
I'm definitely both.
Definitely both. Yeah.
It's like almost there's like set times when I'm each of them, but like they're not like proper set times. There's no time when they turn off. Um, but like either I'm working and being the hands and like doing all the things, and I have like a really hard time delegating any work.
Mhm.
Like I've hired a few contractors and like I'm getting better at like
So hard.
handing stuff off, but trying to get there, I'm like, it's gonna take me longer to explain it than it would to just do it. And then the heads is just constantly like we like if I'm just in the car, I'm like, I could do this and this and this and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I find like, yeah, the whole like hiring people is hard because in the beginning it does take longer. And it's
Yeah.
like you have to invest that time to then save time. Like it takes time to save time. You
Yeah.
got to spend money to make money. And we like know these things, but then it's like,
Yeah.
man, I'll just do it.
Yeah. I think I'm finally at the point where I'm like, okay, just take it from me.
Yeah.
Like, this is it.
Please.
We're not talking about it anymore. I'll just pay you and then I have to let you have it.
Yeah. Hey, I will hire your junior designer.
Perfect.
We just turn this into like an interview call. So yeah, with like the constant, like your job is a little bit different than a hairstylist job where like I can book clients
Mhm.
and I'm bound to having to show up at work and be on
Yeah.
this time. You work from your hallway at home. And I love that you're always like, people love my office. It's a hallway.
It's a hallway.
And you have,
Literally,
yeah,
there-
I love it.
it's a hallway. Yeah.
And Maddox is how old?
He's 17 months.
17 months. Okay, so you have a full-time job that you do yourself. And And I find like with my creative process, now that I'm not just doing clients, like I want to have a set schedule because I like the idea of it, but my creative brain doesn't work on a schedule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Relatable?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
like I
so,
don't have a set place to go every day.
mhm,
I'm just at all times, but also, yeah, it's really hard to book because you're like, am I going to be creative that week? Am I going
exactly.
to come up with a concept? So that's why it gives such like a range because I have to walk away from things. I
Yeah.
figured that much out. Yeah, I have to like do a concept and then leave it. So that's why it usually takes me longer, but it ends up like bomb in the end. But I'm like,
Okay. I
I,
heard this really cool thing. And before I share it with you, I want to ask you a question. Would you consider yourself a procrastinator?
yeah.
Me too. And I heard a thing that like procrastinators are actually, I forget what it was, maybe more creative or actually do better because by procrastinating, we like let our brain ruminate. I don't know if that's a word,
I think,
do the thing, think,
yeah, yeah. Like
stew,
on it. Yeah.
simmer, simmer on it. And then we actually do better work. Cause I always used to beat myself up over doing things last minute and thinking, oh my gosh, if I would have just done this in the beginning, it would have been better. But I'm like, I don't know if it would have been as better because I need that
Yeah.
time for my brain to just sit with it.
Mhm. Yeah. And then like as long as I have the time to actually do it before I told a client that I will do it. But the worst is you procrastinate and then you get a migraine or that your kid
Yeah.
doesn't have an app.
Yeah. That would be
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, it's
Um,
fun times. Yeah,
so
definitely procrastinate.
and you've talked about quite openly about having ADHD. Talk to me and share with the listeners a little bit about that and how that plays into in pros and cons into your business and your creative process.
I think pros is like I can get very hyper fixated in things, which is like it's such a thing in the industry right now to niche and to like work with specific industries.
Hmm.
Like you'll be like a health and wellness brand designer and stuff. And I've had a couple clients lately tell me like I love that you work with so many different people. I'm like, because I love to get like hyper focused. Like the other day I was watching harvest videos. Like
Saw that and I was like, ooh, that looks good.
because I'm working with an agriculture company right now.
Yeah.
And like last week it was a therapist or like a residential painter. Like I'm all over the place, but I think having ADD it like lets you hyperfixate on things, which is like not necessarily a good thing, but it's good for my job.
Hmm.
I like doing like the strategy and stuff, and like all my work actually has a deeper meaning because I get so deep into things. Um, con is that I have a hard time focusing.
Me
And
too.
I saw something the other day too that was because it's like it's very trendy to have ADD right
That was
now.
my next question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ADD, ADHD talk. I'm like on it all night. But it's like really interesting to be like, oh, that's why my brain is like that. Or like I'm
Mhm.
showing Steve things and he doesn't understand. Have you seen the like neurodivergent? You turn the speakers. It's
No.
if it's one way, you'll hear it one way, and if you turn it and you have like a neurodivergent brain, you hear it differently. And I'm like,
Oh.
this isn't real. Everyone hears it wavy. It's wavy in everyone's brain. And Steve's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It
So you do it
sounds
with your
this.
own speakers at home?
Yeah, like your phone speaker, if you hold it this way, it's like certain songs or whatever, but you hold it the normal way and it sounds normal. But if you turn it, it like, and I sent it to my other friend that has ADD, and they're like, it feels wavy in my brain. I'm like, that's the perfect way to describe it. It sounds like it's like going like this,
Oh, you have to send it to me.
like across your ears. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to explain this to Steve for 10 minutes, and I keep playing it and switching it. And he's like, it sounds the same. I'm like, okay, my brain is weird.
Wow.
Yeah, super interesting. But anyways, I don't know what the point of that was.
We got distracted.
Classic.
I love it. That's
It's
like
really
when, so for those of you guys listening, Meaghan has come in and helped like overhaul so much of the brand design in my business. And when we've gotten on our like monthly calls, it's like 50 minutes of just shooting the shit. And they're like, okay, wait, do this.
yeah.
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 Um, But I think that's why I've loved working with you is because like I think like we have so much understanding for how
Yeah.
our brains work and being like, do you find it easier or harder to work with other creatives? Both?
I don't know if I do often.
Oh, okay. Has it been a pain in the butt to work with me?
No. I'm like, if anything, it's like I frustrate myself working with you because I know you know how my brain works, and I know you're like, at what point are you at, Meaghan? Like just trying to figure out where your brain is today.
Well, I think both like and I've shared with you, I'm in the process of getting someone to help organize my business.
Ah,
So we
yeah.
like both come in at disorganized places.
I
And
feel like working with you has been really like refreshing and inspirational because I'm like, I need to get my shit together and just hire people.
yeah,
Like I
that's
need
been like,
help.
yeah, I like was caught in that place where it's like, I need help, but I can't afford help, but I can't afford not to get help.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have to like, and like even bringing you on and hiring you, like it was an investment. And I was like, oh, this is scary to like put this money out there. But at the same time, I'm not going to get things to where I want them to be unless I spend it.
Yeah.
And so that whole like, got to spend money to make money. And I'm actually like going through that again, being like, okay, I'm not the hands person in my business. I don't like, I like doing the hair hands wise that way. But like I think and I wonder if you relate to this, like I can do a lot of things as a creative and it's fun to learn new things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, why would I pay somebody to do this when I
Right.
can do it? But then it's like, I don't have 74 million hours in a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
My
so it's not a matter of capability. It's a matter of like, I don't know, productivity.
Yeah. My cousin just texted me asking if I do window install, like window sign. And I'm like,
Oh, I thought you meant like installing a window into a house. And I was like, that's
no,
so
no, like
like
Megan,
Eccles.
the massage at the
Yeah.
massage place to put their logo up on the window. And I was like, well, I have. I don't
I could.
it's not like a service that I advertise. I can do it because my dad's company that I worked for, they do like vehicle wraps and like signage
Right.
stuff. So I'm like, I could. But it's like, no, Megan.
Yeah. Am I capable?
Like,
Yes. Do I offer the service?
no. It's like just stop.
I
Gotta
love it.
fine.
But I think that's like the hardest part. And that's been really hard for me is like, okay, I am able to do this. Just let it go. And actually, you'll love this is Jenna, who I brought on. She's like, I like making graphics. So she made all my graphics last week for like the podcast and YouTube. And then she's like, just give me feedback. I want to hear it. So I like recorded Loom videos for her being like, just
I did
change
that
the space.
too. Thanks for that.
A Loom video?
Use Loom.
Loom is great.
Yeah.
I like because I struggle to communicate via text.
Yeah.
And well, you know, I send you voice memos all the time. Like I feel like I come across the wrong way in text. You can't hear my tone. And I can be like really frank sometimes. And in text that doesn't come across super well. Like I just like want to get to the point sometimes. And like then I don't put the fluff of like, hey, how are you doing today? Da, 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 da.
I think it's also just like our kind of generation. It's like, oh, they put a period, they're mad at me.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too.
I'm like, oh my God, they've seen the message, but they haven't replied. It's been 30 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
I
get so stressed if I read a message and then Maddox is like climbing the windowsill or something, and like, they're gonna think I'm mad at them. Like, and then I forget because I have ADD.
Yeah, I know. I totally get that. So like, yeah, Loom videos. So like, if for those of you guys that are listening, if you don't know what Loom is, it helps you screen record your computer. So you can like, I like being able to point and show things. I communicate way better. So yeah, I like said like this and this and this a little bit different. And then she's like, cool. And like having someone that like wants to hear that feedback and I know I'm not going to offend them. And she like knocked it out of the park. And I was like, yeah, I don't need to be doing this. This doesn't make sense for me to do this.
Like now I can spend my time doing something else.
Yeah. And realizing
something billable maybe.
Billable. Exactly. Like I'm the salesperson in my business. And but like that tension, how you're saying, like at first I have to let her do it and I have to see her maybe not do it the way I would, but then I have to give the feedback, and learning to give feedback that it's not criticism, it's critiquing it takes time. And I'm like, okay, I still want to approve them for the next few weeks. So still send them to me. But then eventually I can just be like, done, done.
Yeah.
It's not in my
It's
hands.
so funny that I had such a hard time giving critique when that was such a huge part of me going to school.
I was just going to say that because I have a friend who went to art school and she said it's so funny how people can't take, like people, our generation, are you technically a millennial?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think like I'm on like I'm like a millennial, but also like a whatever was before that person. But like we have a really hard time hearing constructive criticism or
Yeah.
constructive feedback. But like, yeah, someone who went to art school like learned how to take critique, but it's still, I always call it a shit sandwich. I always say like, love the effort, love what you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like give the constructive, but like, just so you know, I recognize the effort you put in.
Yeah. Yeah. We were trained on that in school.
Do you
We
find it
did
hard to receive critiquing?
No.
Okay.
I don't find that a lot of people give me it lately either, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's like the hype around like how busy I am. People are like like conditioned to just love it on the first try because that's the stuff that I share. But it
That's
keeps
nice.
happening, which is so nice. And I think that's just like speaking to all of like the strategy portion before.
Yeah. And that's what I talk about with custom consultations with hair. It's like the better communication you have up front, the less work you're going to create for yourself in the long run.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I know I can't make you a logo in like 2 days, but that's because there's all this. And then you're going to approve it. And then bang, we're like off to the races real quick on getting it all.
Yeah.
You got to put it in the upfront work.
And the work that you don't really see.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. So I know you're not currently taking new clients, are you? Or like, what's the price tag? You're like, you can bump to the front for $50,000.
I should do that. I had somebody ask me, they're like, can I pay more to get in sooner? I'm like, damn, I should make that an option, but I literally don't have time. I started taking a wait list back in November until the end of March. So like I'm coming up on that, but because we're in the middle of moving, I'm trying not to just like pack my schedule again.
Mm-hmm.
And also just trying to like reorganize myself.
You also host a market.
Yes.
And you have an Instagram where you sell used clothes and plants.
Yeah, I kind of stopped that though. Okay. That was like when I was 9 months pregnant, ironically. I was like, oh, if I do secondhand, because I love thrifting.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'll just curate online thrifting and I can do that while I have a baby. Not sure what the logic was in that one, but no.
Being a creative, it's like, it's hard to let our brains slow down, especially with ADD.
Yeah. There's like no off. Oh, that's what the TikTok was.
Classic.
It was just how you have to do the entire job in your head before you can actually do it. And that's
I
what
think
I'm
you
like,
posted that. Yeah.
So long. Yeah. Because I have to run through the entire, and that's why I hate doing hourly. I'm like, I don't know how to estimate my time because I have to do the whole job in my brain before I actually sit down and do it. So yeah, anyways.
That's the thing with anxiety too, where it's like, if you just start doing the thing, you actually use the same amount of energy by thinking about it than you do about actually doing it. But I like think about things for forever.
Yeah. Gotta walk myself through the entire conversation, the entire job.
Yeah. Oh, that's me having tough conversations. I'm like, it could go this way and this way. So I'll prepare 20 different possibilities.
In the shower on theoretical conversations. Yeah.
Or it's like, or like the whole, like, they're mad at me, they hate me. And then you like get on the call and they're like, love it, it's great. And you're like, what, where did this story come in my head?
Yeah. It's like,
everyone hates me in the world.
Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. Okay, well, Meaghan, this has been really fun. I feel like we could just keep the podcast going for like hours and hours and hours.
Like, here's a little tidbit of what it's like to talk to me.
Yeah. But like, if people want to connect with you and get to know you more, where can they find you?
Yeah, on Instagram mostly, at Millson Main. It's like Mills on Main. No one can say
We'll
it.
put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put it. She'll write it somewhere.
Yeah. And website?
MillsonandMain.com.
Sweet. And people can get on their wait list if they want it on your wait list.
Yeah, the wait list is like open at all times pretty much. And just as I free up time in my schedule, I kind of go through that and see if people are still looking, basically.
Yeah.
If they
I love
haven't
it. So if you guys are looking for an immediate thing, not probably the best thing, but if you think in a year or two, it might be a good idea.
I mean, like probably like 2-3 months. My like turnaround time is 6 to 8 weeks for branding though. So factor that in.
I love that. Now, a very, very important question that I like to try to ask all my guests: nuggets or nachos?
I've heard you ask this before, because are you always nachos?
I'm not giving
Or
you
you
my
love
answer.
I'm gonna say nuggets. I would say nachos if I'm making them. But no one ever puts enough toppings on nachos.
I like a lot of ground beef, seasoned ground beef on my nachos.
I'm more chicken.
Oh.
But whenever you order restaurant nachos, it's like so expensive for chips and 5 pieces of cheese. So
you know where a good place to go is before you move is Newcastle on 17th Ave. That's where we go. It's just in Killarney. For any of you that's from Calgary that wants to know about this. I'm nuggets only because like I can make nachos. They're kind of sort of healthy. So nuggets feel more indulgent.
Okay.
And like McNuggets specifically.
Yeah. I have a 17-month-old. We eat a lot of chicken nuggets.
There you go. All right. Well, Meaghan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If you guys want to go check out, well, I was going to say go check out all my stuff, but I've only scratched the surface. Meaghan's anything that looks really nice, that's Meaghan. My stuff. You can check out like my IG. Sorry.
Yeah. If you enroll in Dawn's course, you can see the work that I've done.
Yes. If you enroll in Rock Your Business, you will be able to see the new beautiful branding that Meaghan has done. All right, Meaghan, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Isn't she so much fun? I feel like we could have just had that conversation for hours and hours. I just want to like be in her presence and soak up her knowledge. And it's funny how us creatives can often be really hard on ourselves, but also bite off more than we can chew because we truly love what we do, and that can be to our demise. So I hope this has encouraged you. This has lit a fire and ignited some passion in you, and realizing it's okay to say no. It's okay to spend time for yourself, and it's okay even if your work is your hobby, which this was an excuse of mine for years. My work was my hobby. That you need to have other hobbies outside of work, otherwise you'll burn yourself out. All right, if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and slide into Meaghan and I's DMs. Let us know you listened to or watched this episode, whether you're watching it on my website or you're listening to it on your favorite platform. And if you're enjoying this, take a screenshot and put it on your stories. I want to connect with you, and if you screenshot and tag me, you have a chance of getting reposted in my stories. So go ahead and do that, friend, and that is the best way you can say thank you, as well as rate and review and share this with a friend always. All right, I can't wait to hang out with you next week for another amazing episode of The Anxious Creative.